All right, thanks for joining us today. So today I'm going to be talking about uh, how to get paid what you're worth. So if you're a freelancer or if you offer some kind of service, if you are a consultant or a coach or a knowledge expert, and any type of service provider, either whether you offer legal services or your accounting services, whatever, then this video is going to be perfect for you. Okay, so one of the biggest problems as a service provider is you're often in a very commoditized business, right? So let's just say, like a graphic artist or graphic designer, web design, accounting, or bookkeeping type of service. When a lot of the big problems is it comes down to the way you price your services. Okay, so let's just so typically a freelancer or a service professional is going to price you usually price your services on an hourly basis, right? That's very typical. So what happens when like a potential client or a prospect comes to you? They're going to ask you, oh, well, what's your hourly rate, right? And then you say, okay, well, this is how much I charge per hour. Okay, and then they'll go off, and then most likely 80-90% of the time you never hear from them again, right? Or even if they do, they're going to say, oh, well, I spoke to this other service provider, then this is how much they're charging per hour, and this other provider is probably charging a lot less than you. So what's going to happen is they're going to just say, well, you know what, I'm only going to, I don't know what the difference is. If this guy's charging, um, you know, much less per hour than you, then I'm just going to go with that provider. And then it's just a vicious cycle, and you just kind of like, you just want to like, you know, hit your head against the wall because you don't know what else to do, right? So this is the main problem. Okay, so we're going to show you, I'm going to show you today how you can overcome this problem. So the main problem is in how you are pricing your services. So as I mentioned, if you're pricing your services on an hourly basis, then you are basically what we say commoditizing your service. Okay, you've become a commodity. Excuse my chicken scratch here on the page. You've become a commodity. So what happens is that all prospective buyers are just going to compare you on what your hourly rate is. So now there's various strategies to overcome being commoditized, and today I'm just going to cover one of these strategies. Okay, so one of these strategies is, as I mentioned, is the way you're pricing. So if you're pricing per hour, that's pretty much setting yourself up to be commoditized, and really prospects are going to be just going after choosing the lowest cost provider. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be pricing yourself per hour. So what should you do then, right? So when it comes to your prospects, a prospective client or customer, you got to think about, well, what's the reason behind why they want your service, right? They need help from getting from point A, okay, to point B. They want some kind of a result from this service, okay? And the other thing is they don't want to do it themselves, right? They want to pay somebody to do this for them to get from A to B. Now this point B, or this destination or result, to your prospective client, to achieve this result, they are going to have assigned some sort of value to this result. right? And there will be some kind of a monetary value to this result. So let's just say, let's just use web design again for as an example. So this prospect, they believe that once they get a website, a well-designed and structured website to them, it will help them sell whatever services or products that they are selling for their business, right? So if it's done right for them, they've attached a certain value to it. Okay. So typically, like we were saying, the biggest problem that service providers do is that they charge per hour, right? So we don't want to do that. So what you want to do is you want to be estimating, well, how much value will my ideal prospective client put on a well-designed, well-implemented website? Maybe, I mean, for them, it's like having a proper website that's fast loading, so it comes up high in search results. That's bring in sales for them. So maybe have a look at what they're selling. Maybe they're selling, let's say, $1,000 services, or maybe let's use an accounting provider as an example. Okay, as your prospective client for web design client. So as accounting or bookkeeping clients, they're going to be, if you do a good job for them, those clients are going to be worth quite a bit of money over their lifetime, right? So let's just say, you charge, I don't know, one K per month for bookkeeping services, okay? And let's just say a typical client will and then if you do a good job, they're going to stay with you for an entire year, and then they want to continue that, ongoing. And let's just say a typical client, let's say they stay with you for about 5 years, okay? So over the lifetime of this prospective accounting client, their customers, if you design a website that helps them close or convert prospects to clients, then how much is a client worth to them, right? So that's 1K times over a year, and then times 5. How much is that? That is a lifetime value of, 60K, right? Is that right? That's 60K. So let's say you charge, so then you can quote this prospective accounting client for a well-designed and implemented website, say, 10K. Or even, I don't know, even half of that, maybe 5K for a website. How about that? Because that becomes a drop in the bucket if your website that you build for them helps them get clients that are worth 60K to this accounting firm over a lifetime, right? So you're not going to be just helping them close just one client per month, right? So if you explain this to them, if you start presenting the value of the result that you help them achieve, then you start pricing it relative to the value of the results. Okay, so instead of the mechanism or how many hours you put into designing, this way, when you quote per hour, people are going to just compare your hourly rate to everybody else, right? And then when you start to get into the third world countries, that providers that quote a lot lower rate, because simply their cost of living doesn't cost as much maybe for you, right? So they can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's not their fault that they are able to quote something lower than you. It's actually an issue of you need to play a different game. Stop quoting this by hour. Start quoting by value that you bring or that you help achieve, or the result, the value of the result that you help your prospect or client to achieve. And when you start pricing yourself properly, it makes it harder for other competitors to, your prospects will find it harder to compare you to other low cost providers, right? Because they're not comparing apples to apples. They're kind of comparing apples to oranges. And when you present it like this, whereas other low cost providers are just simply just fighting to the bottom of the barrel with, however, the lowest rate that they can charge or quote. You're here just quoting, my service is 5K. And when you present it like this, versus like a 60K lifetime value of a client that you'll help your prospect achieve, then 5K looks like nothing, right? So this is one strategy to get paid what you should be and be valued for what you bring to the table, for what you do. Now, of course, this only works if you do a good job and you are able to achieve the results that you are promising. Okay, so that is very dependent on that. So you can't be some really crappy service provider and offer poor service and zero results. But this is so doing this pricing strategy where you stop pricing per hour and making it harder for prospects to compare you on only a price basis, then that is one part of winning the game of getting paid a fair value for your services. Okay, so I hope you liked this video. If you did, please share it with anybody who you think would be find it of interest, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.